Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Between the Lines webinar. My name is Jimmy Casas, CEO and owner of Connected Publishing, and I am jacked up to be hosting this live event for you tonight, right here from downtown Chicago, and my good friends here. Listen, I'm honored to introduce you to very special authors, Erika Bear and Tiffany Burns, and they are the co-authors of Connecting Through Conversation. Now, Erika has been a proud educator for over 20 years, serving in a variety of roles. She currently serves as the assistant superintendent for the Ashland School District in a beautiful Southern Oregon. I'm so jealous. And Tiffany has been a school administrator since 2012, and she is currently the principal of a wonderful elementary school in Southern Oregon as well, which she finds to be simultaneously the most rewarding and bizarre job she's held to date, as we can all probably relate to. But I want to begin tonight, before we turn it over to Eric and Tiffany, I want to begin by taking a quick moment just to talk about their book, Connecting Through Conversation. It is a playbook. It's about a playbook for talking with students. And this book, I'm telling you, is full of practical and easy to implement tools and strategies and templates that will create a culture of connection in your classrooms, in your schools, on your campuses. You'll be inspired after listening to these two and equipped with immediately applicable moves to build connected relationships for learning, avoid power struggles. We can all use help with that, right? And apply communication as a universal support for all students in kindergarten through 12th grades. The feedback from readers so far is that they find themselves returning to the tools in this playbook again and again as they embark on the daily adventures of talking with students. Tiffany and Erika share a framework for connecting through conversation that is student-centered, trauma-informed, culturally responsive, rooted in equity, and founded in care for kids while honoring the educators who serve them. That would be all of you. So Eric and Tiffany, welcome. I'm so excited. So hey, just tell me, what was your inspiration? Why this book? Why did you feel a need to write this book?
Thank you so much, Jimmy. That was such an awesome introduction. I really appreciate that. We wrote this book. Honestly, COVID was hard. Like COVID was really, really difficult for kids and for teachers and for all educators that were working with teachers or at schools. And our resiliency was low. Our kids' resiliency was low. And we were really trying to figure out how can we best support the most incredible grownups who have chosen this profession to work with kids? Like, how can we give them some back pocket strategies? How can we give them some sentence stems? How can we give them things that they can use to really build connection and to really communicate with kids in a way that's going to create that culture of connection in schools? And also, we needed a passion project to help us really kind of explore our why and get back into why we chose this work. And so we had just an absolute blast writing the book and then getting it out there and talking about it. And the idea is that we wrote it for really busy people. So our table of contents is really laid out in a way that you can just look to that one section and pick a piece and say, gosh, this is going to be really helpful. And so the idea is it's a playbook, and it's something that you can turn to, like you said, over and over again when you need it. So we're hoping that your copies are beat up.
I love it. I love it. So let's get right into it. Let's, as you read through the book, I want to do this for our listeners tonight and those that are watching, but talk to me about this. What do you keep in mind when preparing for and engaging in a connected conversation? What would you share with a classroom teacher or a building principal or a secretary in a building, or heck, even our bus drivers who can use these types of strategies, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. We really did write this for every single educator who works with kids in schools. And so that's everybody. And so we do remind them first that every conversation is an opportunity to either make or break connection. Mm-hmm. So in order to really have those connected conversations, we have to lay some foundation, some groundwork to those relationships. So really encouraging folks to take advantage of every opportunity that they have to engage in small talk, get to know students and colleagues, gather as much information as you have, because the more kind of low stakes conversations you have, those higher stakes conversations are going to go so much smoother, and you're going to have such a better result if you've done some of that groundwork. Another critical way to prepare is think about how we really care out loud and express care for the students that we serve.
Well, and we call like caring out loud is really what we're talking about with kids. And so we know that when students feel known and cared for, they're going to be more engaged in the school community and their own learning. And for us, like we went into education because we love kids, and we are just assuming that everybody that works in education also loves kids. Otherwise, like, why would you do it? Education it's so hard. It's such a challenging job. And so we're just saying, if you're working in education, clearly you love kids. I know that. You know that. We all know that. The kids that walk in the door do not know that. They don't just walk into school every day and think, gosh, everyone that works in this building loves me and cares about me and wants me to be successful. They have their own stuff that they're bringing in and their own things that they're, they have their own experiences. And so they don't all walk in just knowing that. So we need to tell them explicitly and intentionally that we care about them, that we appreciate them. And we need to tell them and show them frequently enough that they start to internalize it, so they know, wow, the grownups in this school, the adults in this school really do care about me. And when they do that, we can really go far.
Yeah. And it sounds so easy, right? Like it feels really intuitive, and it is. But a helpful way to guarantee that you don't miss it, because it's really easy. We get busy. We have so much content to cover, is to really build in regular routines that show care. So really thinking about building things into your daily schedule, your class schedule. When you're a building leader, how are you scheduling your time? To where it's just a part of how you do business. There's no way you're going to miss those opportunities to really express out loud how much you care about kids. There's a ton of examples of those types of routines and those types of things that you can build into your daily school life, as an appendix in the book, and then also as a free resource on our website. So really encourage folks to think about, how can I make this just a part of how we do school every day, so that it doesn't get lost.
That's awesome. Oh, go ahead, Tiffany. Go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I just love that caring out loud. That was one of the first things that I read your manuscript that just caught me and grabbed me. Right, it's funny, right? You hear these things, the caring out loud, and the importance of establishing those routines, especially with our children, especially even as they get, certainly all kids, but certainly those kids that are in our primary grades who need those routines established right from the very beginning. We know that structure, right? It sounds like the kids sometimes fight the structure, but they need the structure, right?
Oh yeah.
And the carrying out loud I love that. And part of it, you talked about the emotions, right? So talk to me a little bit about that, because you talk about emotions being contagious. So what do you mean by that? Help the listeners understand, what do you mean by that, and how can we use it to build connections in our classrooms and around our campuses?
Yeah, so we know that emotions truly are contagious. And so in order for students to trust us, which is a critical component to having connected relationships for learning, we have to actually be trustworthy. So we have to take care and attend to our own emotions so that we can be really who we want to be for our students. It's so hard to pay attention to, and yet when we're attending to our own well-being, we're more creative, we're more energetic, we're happier, and ultimately we're more effective for our students. And so it's critical that the energy that we bring to students each day is positive, because it is contagious. And there's a real science behind that. The contagious nature of emotions is due to mirror neurons, which is, we like to call them empathy neurons, but essentially we're hardwired for connections. We want to connect to the emotions you're feeling, and our brain is going to do that unconsciously. And so we want to make sure what we're putting out there for students is really something we want them to catch.
Absolutely. Well, and like we've had that, right? Where like Jimmy, you've had that where you're talking to somebody and they're super excited and you're like, oh, well, I'm feeling excited too. Like I'm catching that energy. And then the same thing, like let's say you're hanging out in the staff room or in the lunchroom, at school, and there's somebody that's venting and really angry or irritable. Like you're not going to leave feeling in a great mood. You're going to start catching that negative energy. So what we really talk about is making sure that you're mindful and aware that catching other people's emotions is normal. That means you're an empathetic human, but we want to be mindful of it. So we're not picking up something that we don't want to, and we're not putting off something that we want, we don't want somebody else to pick up.
Yeah. And I think, the other time that we like to think about this is when we have students who are in a really heightened state, and they're throwing off a lot of emotions that we don't want. We can really use this to have a positive impact, because we know if we can really demonstrate calm and really show them what those calming strategies look like, they're going to come and match up. So if we start taking really deep breaths, if we start taking a drink of water, if we take a little break and take a walk around the block with a kiddo or around a track, they're going to come with us, and suddenly they're matching our calm instead of what is often more common, which is teachers, all of our educators will kind of start catching the students' anxiety and they'll go to that heightened place. So being aware of it and making sure that we do everything we can to really help students catch our calm instead of us catching something that we don't want to catch from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, these things you're talking about aren't just strategies or skills or in terms of how we're working with children, but it's also how we work with our colleagues, right? And I know you talk a lot about that too. These aren't just managing our conversations with the students in the schools, which we obviously want to be able to do. Can you talk a little bit with our audience, just a little bit, how would that look like with the adults, right? Like, for example, when you said they want to catch our calm, I'm assuming that's the same with adults or with kids. And it's like the idea, right? As they get louder, we want to get softer in our voice, right? And so talk about that with the adults in schools.
Well, I think it's really exactly what you said, Jimmy, that idea of they get louder and they get faster. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to match you. I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go slower. I'm going to be intentional. My favorite strategy for when I need to take a moment is I don't go anywhere without a cup of water or a cup of coffee. And so when I need a minute to just kind of catch myself, gather my thoughts, there we go. And I had just a beat, but it's enough time for me to catch myself and to make sure that I'm really staying calm. And then also, Erika and I've talked about this where we've had a staff member that comes in there pretty upset or anxious about something. And I'm like, oh man, I caught that. like I caught it. I started to feel it and notice it in my body. And so I think it's important to not feel shameful or be embarrassed about that, but to just be really mindful that means I'm empathetic. Great. Good job for being human. And I'm just going to be really mindful and intentional to not pick that up.
And I would also just add, we have so much choice. We have a bunch of colleagues that we get to go to work with every day. Who we spend our time with is going to make a difference. And how the energy that we're putting out, how we're talking about the kids in our building, how we're talking about the other educators in our building. It's what you talk about all the time, right? We want to carry the banner for our students by being that positive voice and putting out that positivity. If we get it going, it's going to spread. And if we are sitting with a group of folks who are really kind of spending the whole lunchtime kind of venting and complaining and talking about all the things that are hard, I might want to try a different place to eat lunch, right? There's nothing wrong with venting, but if we find ourselves kind of consistently walking away from those conversations, kind of feeling like we caught something less than positive, then we might want to make a different choice next time too. So it's being aware of it and also making conscious decisions about how we respond.
Yeah, I definitely like that, right? It's that idea, even when we work with kids, right? I think sometimes we forget as adults that we expect our kids, we want to work with them in terms of self-regulation, but we also have to model self-regulation as the adults as well, right? We have to remember that, how important it is. The kids are not only watching us, but they're listening to us as well. So I love that. So let's get to something I'm curious about this one, because this is one we deal with all the time in schools, right? If you think about it, and that is dealing with power struggles. Talk to us a little bit about what educators can do, first of all, to avoid the power struggles, but what do we do once we get into it? How do we get ourselves out of it, right? Like, why am I here? I can see it happening, right? Well, let's help them not only avoid them, obviously that's what we'd like, but the reality is sometimes we do get in them, so how do we get out of them?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I've never been in a power struggle. I don't know what you're talking about, but
okay, I have. I've been enough for both of us.
The thing is, even the most skilled educators find themselves there. Like, it happens. And what we do know, of course, is that the only way to win a power struggle is to not get one in the first place. So we really think about, that tug of war, and we just don't want to pick up the rope. And so recognizing when that's happening and really paying attention is important. So we like to think about prevention. So there's a couple things we can do to just avoid them in the first place, and then we'll talk about how to get out of them for sure. But I think even with the best laid plans, right, it's going to happen. So the first trick that we like to share with people is don't ask a question if it's not a choice. So for example, saying to a group of students, hey, could you all take a seat? If the expectation is they take a seat, then we're going to say, you may all take a seat now, or you can all take a seat, right? If we're asking a question when it's not truly a choice, it's confusing, and it gives them the opportunity to say no. So we really advise people to be careful with their language around that.
Well, and educators are so polite,
Yep.
right? And so like we're polite humans for the most part. And so I just think about, if I were to ask, when my kids were really little, bedtime was not their favorite time of day. And so if I were to say to my little kids, hey, are you feeling ready for bed? Like, no, mom, I'm not, and so it's that idea of like just saying, here's the thing that we're doing and not making it a question. The other one I think people do is they'll inadvertently make something a question by throwing the word okay at the end of the sentence, right? So, I'd like, or go ahead and walk down the hall. Okay. Well, now it's a question. Like, are you sure? Are you asking me or telling me? Another thing we do is that if there is an opportunity for choice, that we provide choices. Oftentimes when we're talking about kids that are, when we find ourselves in a power struggle, kids are looking for control. That's what they're looking for. They want to have control of that situation. So we're going to find opportunities where they can have control. So offering two different choices, when both choices are ones that we can live with, is a great way to give them that feeling of control and give them some autonomy. So will you do your thing, the cell phone?
Oh. So, you just asked a bunch of kids to put their cell phone away, and a student pulls it out and slaps it on the table. We might say to them, you can put your cell phone in your pocket or in your backpack, right? Like two choices. Either way, the cell phone gets put away, right? We have to head to the office now with little kids. You might say, do you want to walk on your own, or do you want to hold my hand, right? Those are two different ways that we can live with. The outcome is going to work for us, but we've given them a measure of control in how we get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You give them a choice, but ultimately, at least they'll still you getting the result that you're trying to get, whatever that is.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny, right? How everything comes back to when we talk about culture, right? In an organization is how do people feel in that organization? Do they feel like they're connected? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they have their value? Do they have a voice? And I love some of the things you've mentioned here, because it really shows you just changing our language. Culture is everything, even the smallest little things that will get us a better result. So Tiffany and Erika, let me ask you this final question for now, and that is, what's something I didn't ask you, or something you want to share with our listeners that you say, oh, I wish you would have asked me this, or here's another thought I just had that has something to do with something else. Is there anything else you want to add before we go ahead and sign off tonight?
Yeah, I think another one that for the power struggle piece, just because maybe it's just me, but it seems like those are pretty significant right now. This is the time of year that kids are, the honeymoon has worn off a little bit. They're feeling comfortable. We've done a lot to build our culture, and now we've got some pretty big unexpected behaviors coming out. So the power struggle piece is at the top of my mind. Another sentence stem that we love to use is called.
Oops, I lost you there, Tiffany. Oh, Tiffany and Erika, I lost your voice there. What happened here, my friends? Oh, hoping I didn't do that. A quick troubleshooting. We're trying to troubleshoot this. Oh, here. No worries. We may have lost connection just for a second. It could happen.
Did you get us?
There you go. You're back.
I'm so sorry. I have no
You're
idea what happened.
back.
Well, that's what happens live.
Hey, you know what? I was sitting here trying to read your lips, and I was just going to reiterate everything you said. So I'm so glad you jumped back in because you saved
It was
me.
brilliant.
It was brilliant.
You know what my favorite thing is now that we're out of COVID, we have so much experience doing things on Zoom and just rolling with technical difficulties.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So
We're just
sorry about
connecting
that.
through silence here. We're connecting
Right.
through silence, not through conversation there.
There
In case
you go,
anybody was
yeah.
wondering what we're doing there.
Yeah.
So,
I think that the last thing that I really want to make sure that we share with everybody is kind of our mindset around behavior when we're working with students. And that is to just remember that behavior is what a student did. It's not who they are. And we have to remember that. Our students have to know that. And the reason it's so important is because a student can change what they do, but they can't fundamentally change who they are. And so if we think about making sure that we're separating that for us, because it's not personal, no one set out to ruin our day. And then also for the student in front of us, just to really ensure that they know that they can turn things around, that they can do the right thing, and that we care about them no matter what. We don't care what kind of situation they've gotten themselves into. We're going to care about them, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about that. Then we can meet them in a place where we know success is possible.
I love that, right? Their behavior doesn't define who they are, right?
That's
When we
right.
label children, and quite frankly, even label adults.
Yep.
Like all we do is
100%.
really hold them hostage, right? And then therefore they can never reach their full potential. So thank you so much. So Tiffany, Erika, if the listeners and the watchers tonight want to get in touch and reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, they can check out our website, www.connectingthroughconversation.com. They can also email us at hello@connectingthroughconversation.
And we've got all the social media. The easiest way to find that, though, is through our website. But we're at CTC Playbook on Twitter and Connecting Through Conversation on everything else. And we would love to chat with folks. So email, message, any kind of way. We would love to connect.
We're on your website too now, Jimmy, which is
Oh,
very
that's
cool.
right. That's right. Go to jimmycasas.com. That's absolutely right. So, hey, listen, first of all, like many of the people who are educator friends, you've been working all day, and here you are still providing opportunities and trying to support educators across the country, even by spending time with us here tonight. So thank you so much for that and all the work that you do. Listen, my friends, if you are interested, connect in terms of the playbook, right? The book, I just stumbled it. Connecting Through Conversation. I apologize for that. I wish I would have went silent there for a second. Listen, I know it's a hot item because before the show started, we were just talking about we had a district reach out and bought a bulk of books and then came back and said, we want some more. So you know what that means? That means people read it and liked it. So that is awesome. So listen, we're connectedpublishing.com. If you're interested in connecting through conversation, check us out at connected.org. That's EDD with a .org on there. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we hope that you will reach out to Erika and Tiffany if you need anything. But in the meantime, God bless you for the work you do each and every day. We're here to support you. Okay. Thank you so much, Tiffany and Erika. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. And have a great night.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's so fun to talk with you.
You're very welcome. Take care.